Let me first introduce you. I think I did put some of the introductory slides in the beginning of the show. Our speaker is Sri Devnarayan Srinivas. What I want you to know that he is just 23 years of age. He's doing biomedical sciences here in the Manchester University. He has just finished his graduation. But it is very interesting to know the type of foundations that he has had. He's not exactly from a Gurukul system, but he has come from a school which is been set up by Jiddu Krishnamurti. He is one of the first known good philosophers from India who went across to the world, to the Western world in particular, and developed lots of centers for good education. Because the entire idea is that unless you know the truth, and truth means quite a few odd things, but unless you know the truth, you'll continue to have conflicts. And you have to do it through a very, very, very important way. So he is actually from Sikkim, and he has studied in the Rishi Valley School, and that he has done from the age when he was possibly over 7 or 8 years of age. One of the most important things that is known from him is the fact that he is almost consistent with the traditional Indian schooling system, where we have fundamentally three things that we tend to know in our education system. We have been brought up with the idea that you learn up the education that is consistent with what you can earn a food with and your profession. But in reality, the education in the Indian system and in the Gurukul system was always, first of all, everything that is there in the universe, see it as it is, not to try to interpret or do various things, just to see the way it is. Therefore, every knowledge that we think that we have known or we have discovered is already existed. This particular universe runs in a particular way. Everything is already existing. All that we are trying to do is understand it a little more. So we do not. Our knowledge is very, very limited. Number two is when we are seeing an object, say under a microscope, we are only trying to see it as well as the instrument can see it. This body is just an instrument and we have to maintain it. But more importantly, we have to know is what is it and who is seeing it. So unless we understand our own self, the truth can never be known. So you have got, therefore, an object which is to be seen and an observer who is seeing it. Understanding this important relationship is extremely vital to understand the truth. Lot many of us are directed by books which tell us that you have to behave like this or you have to do like this, and that's what the object is all about. And therefore, that leads to a lot of conflict because there are a lot of suppositions. Unless people recognize the truth, there will always be conflicts. And one of the reasons of conflicts in this world is we're always trying to see each other's truth in a very different way, but nobody is actually looking at the truth in the real sense. So the Indian traditional system has fundamentally three concepts. First of all, see the world the way it is. Number two, understand who is observing it, therefore understand your own self. And that comes to the entire concept of reading Vedanta. And the third thing that comes is know your professional knowledge. That is principally what is going to make you earn your money so that you can keep this body and instruments on. So Jiddu Krishnamurti is one of those people who founded his school. There are 5 of them in India and 2 of them in UK. Sorry, 1 of them in UK and 1 of them in USA. This is the school that where he studied from. You can see in the big, old, far distance is actual school where the buildings are, but their entire school spread to nearly 300 odd acres of land. And it's a wide area of lots of activities, temples, and a whole lot of things where you take up the first 2 parts of the education, which is integral to the proper education. Today here, we will get a chance of seeing what it means to have the right type of foundations. And we have here with us our speaker, who will give us a good example as to what it means to have the right type of foundations in education. Not only has he done everything the way it needs to be done, he took his Diksha when he was 11 years of age under Sri Ramakrishna Swami. Am I correct?
15.
At 15, so at 15. And he has been under the care of the Acharya very carefully. And let me let you know that before he gave this talk, he had a long talk with his Acharya to make sure that he's able to deliver his speech properly and give the right type of information to you. So he does not take anything for granted. But more importantly, he is also one of those people who is not like Arjun, who has got no concepts. He is a typical Krishna man. So he does not believe in reading anything secondhand. He goes and reads of Sanskrit in the fullest way. So after doing his school from from his school, he went and did what he called media training. He's a certified yoga from Rishikesh. He's one of the most expensive teachers for yoga because he teaches the yoga teachers over here, and he's very well versed Vedanta, and that is why he's liked by the yoga teachers here, because he teaches Vedanta and as to how to connect the physical aspects of yoga with the Vedantic concepts and how to realize your own self, which is not something that you get in the Western world. He's well trained in Ashtanga yoga and Hatha yoga. And then after that, more importantly, he is completely versed with all the traditional systems of doing various worshipping, various pujas and marriages and all of. Although he has not done it, but he's well versed with it. So all said and done, here is 23 years old gentleman from the Manchester University, done his graduation from the school, and see the difference what it means uh, to be able to say various things about our traditional Vedanta, our systems. And more importantly, what I would like to say is I had given some information and sent some ideas to everybody so that you're able to what I call get a preliminary idea, because his talk can go pretty high very suddenly. So I'm sure he's going to make it very easy for us. Right. So we'll start. So by the way, this is the school called the Brockwood Park School here in UK, which is a part of their what you call organization. Their education system, if you go to their curriculum, it is amazingly different from what you get in the normal curriculum. So there you go. You can start your talk, Srinivas.
Jai Srinivas, everyone. I hope you're all well. Yeah, thank you for this wonderful introduction. I don't know how much of it is true, but I'm sure all of it is not untrue. So we will start with that. Today's concepts are regarding the happiness and contentment in modern lifestyle. And I've given this a fair bit of thought regarding the kind of people who would be listening to this session today. And I do apologize because when I study it in either Nepali or Hindi as a medium of conversation, and sometimes I have to translate it to English, and it sometimes becomes an issue. So if you do not understand, just keep it for the end, and you could have some questions. Another thing is that I'll be making the talk shorter so that there can be more questions towards the end. The reason for that being is when there is an interactive session, we can understand things in a better way. So if you do take a few notes and you could ask me towards the end, and to the best of my abilities, I'll try and answer them. So let's start by understanding this concept of happiness and contentment. And then in modern lifestyle, the modern is just a reference to the lifestyle today. And it does not specifically refer to any system of action. It just refers to the time frame that is today and now. The, the fact that we say happiness and contentment, we are implying that you want to remain happy and content. If we imply that we want to remain happy and content, you must be in a position where you are not happy and you are discontent. Only if you are already under the presumption that there is some level of dissatisfaction and discontentment can you work towards happiness and contentment. So if we want to become happy, we need three things. Yeah. The first thing we need is we want to understand who is it that is in sorrow. So who is that entity which is in pain, or who wants to become happy? That is the first entity that we must discuss, we must understand. The second thing is, if there is sorrow, why is there so? If there is pain, what is the cause of this pain? And finally, the fact that I know there is something which is in sorrow, we know there is something and why there is. So how do we come out of this sorrow? And by understanding these three frameworks, we can try and maybe gauge and bring ourselves to a position where we say maybe doing a certain set of activities may allow us to become more free and more peaceful in the near future. So let's start with the question, who am I? So let's go to the next slide. So we have different the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutras, which are these Upanishads here. they have given basically a few vakyas, and these vakyas that I've put forth for you, and you can read it for yourself, and I'm sure you all know it already, are known as the Mahavakyas. Of course, I've altered the meanings here from the ones they are generally given in the text, a slightly different understanding. Um, so you may take a note of that and maybe question me towards the end. All of these, Pragyanam Brahma, Ayam Atma Brahma, Tat Tvam Asi, and Aham Brahmasmi. These are the four Mahavakyas of the different Upanishads. All of these are referring to the fact that we are not this body. Pragyanam Brahma, the insight which we have, the sentience, is derived from Brahman. The sentience is derived from something else. My existential quality is an outcome of the sentience I observe. If my existence is an outcome of the sentience I observe, then the Brahman, and I'm deriving the sentience from Brahman, I must be different from this body, because this body by itself, a dead body, as you have, if you have observed, is an insentient entity. You hit it, it's not going to get up and hit you back. It's not going to get hurt. Therefore, there is another entity from which you're deriving that sentience. So Pragyanam Brahma is speaking about that. Ayam Atma Brahma. This self is of the Brahman, meaning there is a Brahman, which is, let's call that Bhagavana, and we are a part and parcel of Bhagavana. Ayam Atma Brahma. So within my Atma is Paramatma, and that is the Atma of my Atma. Without that Paramatma, the Atma will not function and will not remain sentient. Tat Tvam Asi. So who are you? You are also that Atma. And then if you ask me, who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. I am of that Brahman. There is that Bhagavana, and I am a part and parcel. Chitta Vishishta Brahma. We will go into that in a moment. So these are the Mahavakyas of the Vedam. These are Shabda Pramana. But let's try and question ourselves and say, how do I know that I'm not this body? Simply, when you are 5 years old, let's say when you are just the first time when you remember the first memories that you have, maybe 3 or 4 years old, when somebody asks you who you are, you say, I am whatever. I am Dev. I am Anukul. I am Ashok. You see? So I keep saying I am. So therefore, I establish my existence as being a sentient entity. However, let's say when Devnarayan becomes 80 years old, at that time, the cellular structures have changed in the sense that the same cells that were there when you were younger are not there anymore. The minerals have changed. Your entire body has altered. You have eaten new food, and that has given rise to a new body. Your mindset has changed. Your ability to think has changed. The way you understand things have changed. Everything seems to have changed. Yet, when you are 80 and I ask you, who are you? I am Devnarayan. The sense of self does not deteriorate with age, even though the body has changed dramatically. Therefore, you say the entity which I refer to as myself must be different from the body. If it were the same, then I would be a different existence 80, 60 years later, 70 years later, you say. So therefore, we can just establish and assume, we don't need to assume, we can come to an understanding through Anumana, through a set of assumptions based on factual evidence, to say Anumana means inference, yeah. Just to say that I am at a position where I can say this body is not me. If this body is not me, the birth of this body happened maybe however old you are at that time, yeah, post the gestation period of your mother. The body was born then and it was created within the womb. If the body was created then, how did you enter that body? You must have been there before the body. That is the first understanding. Now let's look at the Newton's theory, where Newton is talking about action having an equal and opposite reaction. Therefore, every action that we do must cause another action, you see. If my action is causing another action, the action that is causing another action must also be an outcome of a previously caused action. So every action must be a reaction of a previously caused action. So your birth must also be an outcome of a previously caused action. Now, the fact that the birth of the body is at the birth of this body whenever you were born, and it must be an outcome of a previously caused action. Now, when you punch a wall, you get hurt. Somebody else does not get hurt. So when I punch the wall here, my hand gets hurt, and I observe it, not somebody else in India, 3,000 miles away. Therefore, the reaction of every action must also come back to the source of the action. And if that is true, then it must be you who has done the action, an outcome of which must be the birth of your body and you within it. Therefore, again, you must be different from the body. So with that, we have understood that I am not this body, and I am an entity, sentient entity, which is within this body. Okay. So the next slide, please. If there are any questions in the middle, you could just stop me and ask me. That's no problem. Unless if you just want to wait to the end, that's also no worries at all. Now, if you can see here in the slide, I have constantly mentioned that this self, this sentient entity. Now let's call that Atma. Okay. There are many dhatus that can make the word Atma. Here we'll just understand Atma as that which has sentience. The word Atma is basically Chetana. Chitta is also, when you use the word Chitta, like Chitta, Achitta, and Ishvara. Sat, Chit, Ananda. You see, that Chitta here is referring to the Atman, okay, which has Chetana. Now, Atma as the self that you observe within yourself, and the is also Chetana. That means it also has sentience. Bhagavana also has sentience, and he is known as Paramachetana. If that is the case, what is the difference? Why is Bhagavana also referred to as Atma, and Jiva also, Jiva as in this living entity, also referred to as Atma? Because both of them are sentient. The difference here, Sri Vishishtadvaita, Ramanujacharya Sri Vishishtadvaita differentiates Atma into Pratyek Atma and Parak Atma. So Pratyek Atma, the different Jivatmas all around us, at this moment, just referring to the human beings, but every Atma, the animals, dogs, even the most microscopic cellular organisms, unicellular and organisms, they are all referred to as Jiva, a Pratyek Atma, and a Bhagavana. All these Jivatma and all the Prakriti, which are insentient, Jada Vastu, insentient existence, like the matter, the insentient matter around us, all of them together make one Brahman. And that is what we call Bhagavana. And he is Paramachetana, also referred to as Parakatma. So let's move forward. Next. So what is happiness? The next slide, please. So why is there sorrow to begin with? If you can just observe the slide, I made a small cartoon, and I will not discuss each of these. I will just discuss the first one. If you notice here, what is happening is we dissociate our understanding of the self to say that I am something other than that. That's the basic understanding. So sorrow is caused to what? As long as there is association with the body, the pain and misery of the body becomes our pain and misery. So when the body is hurt, you say, I am hurt. When the body is in pain, you say, I am in pain. You see. So when we dissociate ourselves from the body in the sense, in our mind, and we understand through the mind, we realize that we are actually the Atman. Atman is that sentient entity who is trying to, who has forgotten itself. Also, please tell me if I'm going too fast. Yeah, the Atman has forgotten itself and associates with the body as it expands its sentience within the body and says that this body is me. That is called ahamkara, or the ego which says, I am this body, I am, that sense. And we forget that we are the Atma. So everything that happens to the body becomes my problem. Now, if you are, let's say you're thrown out of the country, oh, I am thrown out of the country, I'm so much in pain. I have an illness. oh, if the body has an illness, I have the illness, that illness is causing pain. I am feeling that pain. I must be in pain. I am so sorrowful. If I fall down, I break something. The body has broken. I associate with the body. Therefore, I must be broken. My leg is broken. I am in pain. Oh, I'm so sorrowful. Now, all this pessimism, if you want to rest it, let's assume that there is somebody who is born with good karma, and we'll understand karma in a moment, with some good attributes, and he or she or anybody else is just enjoying the life. You see, there's only happiness. He's always in bliss. If this person is always in bliss, even this is limited. You see, why? It is limited because the body only lasts for so long. Maximum, let's say 100 years. After that, how many people survive? So 100 years. And then after that, that happiness is also going to end. So it is anityam. Like Buddha said, anityam, anityam, sarvam, anityam. Sarvam is not anityam, but at least in terms of the prakriti, it is anityam. The Atman, however, is nityam. Anitya means, Nitya means eternal. Anitya means non-eternal. Nitya means forever existing. There is no point where it did not exist. Pragabhava pratyogite sati pradvamsabhava pratyogitvam nityatvam. There has never been a point where it did not exist. There will never be a point where it will not exist. It has always existed. That is called nityam. So the Atman that you are is nitya. It has always existed. There has never been a point where it did not exist. If that is the case, then how can we attain? And the prakriti that we see, this body, is anityam. That means there is a point where it is born, and there will be a point where it will perish. And as it survives, there is vikara. Every moment there is vikara. Vikara means change from one form to another. And in this change, there is some level of progress when you are young, and then there is a constant degradation until we pass on. And until the body passes on, and based on the karma, the jivatma goes from one body to another. Because there are still desires to be fulfilled. To fulfill desires, you require a body. The Atma must attain another body to fulfill their desires. And in the new body, it will try and fulfill those desires which it previously had, and won't have further desires. And then to fulfill those desires, it will be born again and again and again. Until at one point, the Atma realizes, oh, I've had everything now. I don't want anything. I have no desires. The only thing I want is to stop this cycle of desire. And that's when we come to sessions like this and sit for 1.5 hours or 1 hour, and sometimes get bored and sometimes not. Okay. So this Jiva Atma. So now we have understood that there is this Jivatma. Jivatma has forgotten itself for some reason, and it is within this body. It associates with the body, and because it associates with the body, it forgets who it really is, and it associates with the pains of the body and the miseries of the body, and says, I am in pain, and therefore the Jivatma is in sorrow. Now, how do we come out of sorrow? Let's go to the next slide, please. If we attach ourselves to anything that is anitya or limited, or which is non-eternal, the bliss that we derive from it must also be not eternal. Now, I'll give you an example. So let's assume that, somebody wants some money. Money is a good example here. And they come up to me and say, Dev, could you please give me maybe 10 pounds? And I say, yeah, I can give you 10 pounds. And then I'll just give it to him. Now, again, 10 days later, the same gentleman comes back to me and says, can you give me 100,000 pounds? And I look at him and say, no chance. I do not have 100,000 pounds to give you. Therefore, I can only give something that can derive out of me, can only derive when it is present within me. If I have 100,000 pounds, only then I have the possibility of giving it. If an entity is limited, it is anitya, it cannot provide me with bliss that is unlimited, which is eternal. A limited entity, one can derive only limited bliss out of a limited entity. unlimited bliss can only be attained from that entity which is unlimited, which is eternal. So it has a cornucopia of bliss. There is so much of bliss that there is no point where it will cease to exist. The bliss must also be eternal. Therefore, as you can see, we can't attain bliss from this world. We must attain bliss from that which is eternal. Now, just go to the next slide. This is just you can read it for yourself. I'll just read the shloka out for you. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmada pariharyerthe natvam shochitu marhasi. So when we grieve for loss, and in this grave time of ours, and when we need each other's company as well, we are always in a position where things keep changing. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naro parani tatha sarirani vihaya jirna yanyani sanyati navani dehi. Just like the body throws away old clothes and wears new, just like you throw away old clothes, tattered clothes, and wear new ones, the Jivatma will also throw away tattered bodies and accept new ones. And this is a cycle which goes on and on. As long as there is association of the Jivatma with the body, there is sorrow which comes with it. So what is the way out? The first question is, should you find bliss in that which is eternal? And the answer is yes, you must. Because if you want eternal bliss, you must find it in a person or in that entity which is eternal. So at this moment, as we have spoken so far, what is eternal? Jiva is eternal, unchanging. Jivatma. It is in a state, it has eternal bliss within it. Jivatma. Understanding Jivatma is a path to understanding pure bliss, eternal bliss. The next slide, please. The question asked here is, why is there bliss within Jivatma? And the answer is simple. It is because Bhagavana is there within Jivatma. Tat srishtva tadevanu pravishatta iti Vedanushasanam. The Vedas say that Bhagavana, while after doing the Srishti, he entered within his creation as Antaryami Rupa, just like he is within our Jiva as well, providing sentience to the Jivatma and providing bliss when the Jivatma is within itself, when it knows that I am, that Dharma Bhuta Jnanam within it, which says that I am. And what is the difference between a sentient and an insentient existence? Like a cup. An insentient body will not know itself, and it cannot establish its existence. It requires a sentient entity to establish it. Therefore, I am here and I say this cup exists. Hence, the existence of this cup has been established. That does not mean this cup does not exist. It just means that the existence has not been established by a sentient entity. On the other hand, the Jiva, without any sentient entity, can establish its own existence. It has sentience within it. That sentience is derived from Bhagavana, as the Vedas say. Now, how do we attain this concept where we say, I am this Atma? Within this Atma is also Paramatma or Bhagavana or Ishvara, which is providing sentience to this Atma. And outside the Jivatma is also this existence, which is also within Paramatma, which is also within Brahman. All of these are eternal entities. Because if Jivatma is eternal, that which gives sentience to Jivatma must also be eternal. Therefore, Bhagavana is eternal. And as Bhagavana is eternal, we can attain eternal bliss from both Jivatma and Paramatma. Through the Jivatma, by attaining Paramatma, we can attain bliss. Now, of course, unfortunately, because I study Vedanta, and not as much as I can, of course, I haven't really delved deep into Itihasa and Purana. So the number of stories that I have in my mind is very limited. So I have a few. I will try and share them with you. Okay. Now I've become very rhythmic also. Anyway, so to attain, to realize for us as Jiva, as unintelligent Jiva, to realize that we are Jivatma, we need to go through something. Something must happen, which is not happening and we do not know. And that is called dharma. There are two basic kinds of dharma. One is called samanya dharma, and the other one is called that paramarthika dharma. Samanya means the basic dharma, the foundational dharma, and a paramarthika dharma, which is that which sits upon the foundation and elevates you. Okay. So what is samanya dharma? Dharana dharma iti ahu. That dharana here refers to what? Helping other people, providing service, providing as much service to different people as possible, speaking lovingly, being kind and generous to one another, helping everybody around you. That these things are come under loka vyavahara. This is also dharma. Living within the varnashrama system is dharma. The Vedas are known as shastra. Shashanat shastram. Vedas tell us what to do. They also tell us what not to do. If you listen to what the Vedam says and do exactly what they want us to do, you will attain punyam. If the Vedas tell us what to do and we do not do what it tells us to do, we will garner papam. If the Vedas tell us what not to do and then you do it, you will again get papam. And if the Vedas tell us what not to do and you do not do it, nothing happens. You don't get punyam or papam. Okay, you just remain there. So this is how you generate karma. If you do things which are prescribed by the Vedam, you get punyam. If you do things that are not prescribed by the Vedam, you get papam. And papam and punyam are two sides of the same coin. Papam will lead to bad experiences. Punyam will lead to good experiences. Both these experiences bind us to this world. This world, let us refer to it as samsara. Sansara. Actually, the anuswara should be pronounced as an, but sometimes in English it's written as samsara. Sansara. Sarati gachati iti sansara. It keeps moving. Sarati gachati. It keeps walking. That is what samsara means. And both papam and punyam lead to the bondage of this jivatma within the samsara. Go to next slide, please. So what is the way out of this whole samsara, which is also referred to as the Kala Chakra? Kala means time and again. Even though time looks as if it is linear, we are constantly born again and again. It's more of a circular thing here. Of course, Kala is unidirectional. However, it works in a cyclic fashion. We'll not get too deep into that. That's maybe another topic of discussion. Okay. The Samanya Dharma I've talked about. Let's keep this karma on the screen and just observe the beauty of the art. As we do that, the second part of the dharma is Paramarthika Dharma. What is Paramarthika Dharma? What is dharma, honestly? The Ramayana and Mahabharata very clearly explain to us what dharma is. Before explaining what they say, Ramayana and Mahabharata are also known as Veda Shastram because Itihasa Puranabhyam Veda Samupa Brahmayet. Vedas are explained by Itihasa and Purana. Vedam they just give you the mantras. Itihasa and Purana explain the Upanishads, and Brahma Sutra, of course, explains the Upanishads and how to interpret it and so on. However, Itihasa and Puranas are explaining the mantras of the Vedas and trying to make it clear through stories and through many of these things, through the historic battles that have been fought, what the true meaning of the Vedam is. So the Ramayana says, Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. Rama is only Dharma. Bhagavan is only Dharma. And the Mahabharata also says, Krishnam Dharmam Sanatanam. Krishna is only Dharma. Both of these are Bhagavan, avatar of Bhagavan. Therefore, Bhagavana is only Dharma. So to know the actual nature of Bhagavana, which we can refer to as Yathatmya Jnana. So the Jnana is also various types: Yathartha Jnana, Ayathartha Jnana, and Yathatmya Jnana. Jnana means knowledge, a higher wisdom, let's assume. Yathartha means that which are required for samanya work. Like if I have to sit down and not fall, I sit on a chair. That's Yathartha Jnana. Ayathartha Jnana is those things we should not know or maybe are not very required as essential. Yathatmya Jnana is that which helps transcend these physical boundaries here. That is Yathatmya Jnana. Attainment of this Yathatmya Jnana without lies, evasion, malice, and trickery, if somebody is called dharma, to attain Bhagavan. So if somebody comes, and this seems to happen a lot nowadays, they'll come and tell you, you believe in our God and your illnesses will go. There'll be miracles and everything will be fine if this happens. There will be no suffering in your life after this. Through malice, if somebody is trying to direct you towards God, that is not dharma, and that will not lead to moksha. Moksha here means that I think I mentioned this before, but I will explain to you again. Moksha here is the dissociation of the jivatma from its karma, so it does not need to be bound to this samsara, and it is unbound from the samsara because of the dissociation of the jivatma from the karma. That is called moksha, and attainment of Bhagavan is also termed as moksha. Now, different lines of philosophy have referred to this in different ways. Like the Buddha, he has referred to it as nirvana. Of course, nirvana is also another word for moksha, where there is no pain anymore. Vana is an arrow, it pierces you, you feel pain. Nirvana is no arrow can pierce you and make you feel pain. You are beyond that. You're beyond this body, and that's where the word moksha can be derived as nirvana here as well. Some people term it as Bhagavad Prapti, some term it as Atma Prapti. Atma only is Bhagavan. Either way, the one thing in common between all of these practices is that the Atma must dissociate itself from its karma, and that's the reason why the karma is there. Just take a moment to soak that in. Okay. Only when we dissociate our Atma from karma, there is no reason for the Atma, Jivatma, to be born within the body. Association of the body is causing us misery because all the pain is faced due to our association with the body. The moment a person is enlightened, let's say, that enlightenment is a point where one realizes from within that I am not this body, so the sorrows don't affect me. That is in the field of Shankaracharya's line of thinking, he's called Jivan Mukti. And at the point of when the Jivatma leaves the body from Sahasra Chakra, he attains moksha. Okay. Now the story. We spoke about dharma here. Okay. So if you are aware of the Ramayana, so we have this king Dasharatha. He has 3 wives, Kaushalya, Sumitra, Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi's son is Dasharatha. Dasharatha is younger than Rama, who is Kaushalya's son. Kaushalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate. Kaushalya's son Rama. Bhagavan Sri Ram Atmanam Manusam Manye Ramam Dasharathatmajam. Bhagavan Sri Narayana, before he is born, he says that I will be born as Bhagavan Sri Ram in Ramayana, Atmanam Manusham, as a human being. Therefore, Rama is Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma, but Rama is also Bhagavan here. Maryada Purushottam, Bhagavan Sri Ram. Now, when the coronation time happens, Dasharatha looks into the mirror and sees a gray strand of hair, and he says, okay, I've ruled for 65,000 years. It's time that my son rules now. And there is no better than my eldest son, Bhagavan Sri Ram. So he goes to the Praja, he goes to his the people within his kingdom, and he asks, do you think Ram is a suitable king for you? Do you think I should make Rama as the king? And everybody says, yes, we want Bhagavan Sri Rama only as the king, nobody else. We only want. That was the level of democracy. Then the king had to go and ask. And he was an emperor, not just a king, Samrat. Now he goes back and he goes to Rama and says, tomorrow will be a coronation. So you get ready. And Rama is a Pitri Vakya Paripalanam. That is the greatness of Bhagavan Rama. Once his father says, that's it. You don't have to tell him twice. That's it. He will understand. Pitri Vakya Paripalanam. Anything his father says, he will do. So he said, okay, father, whatever you want. So he got ready. Now there was the Kaikai and whatever, what is the name? Manthara. Manthara is her name. So the Manthara, poisons Kaikai's mind, even though Kaikai is saying, Rama is my great son. And in some time she's completely brainwashed. There is a good conversation for 2.5 hours probably from that conversation, where Kaikai starts by saying, Rama is like my son only. My son is being coronated. Why are you not happy? Why are you not satisfied? These are the questions he asks. To which um, which turns in the brainwashing in those 1.5 hours. Manthara was so great. She converted this Kaikei to believing that if Rama becomes the king, she will not be the Rajmata anymore. So Bharata must be the king. So she reminded of some boon she had, where she could ask Dasharatha of 2 things that he must do, he must comply with. So she did. She went, she called Dasharatha, she whined before him, and then he said, whatever you want, I can give you. Again, he said, okay. To which he said that I want Bharata to be the king, which Dasharatha hadn't fallen yet. And then he said Rama has to go to exile for 14 years. That also influenced um, by the other lady. Now, Dasharatha fainted for many hours. However, what happened in the end? Rama had to go to the forest. Dasharatha got angry, said mean things about Bharata as well, because because Bharata was going to be the king now. And basically, Dasharatha passed and so on. What happened is that Kaikei, after this is what my Acharya told me a long time ago. This is a good story. Kaikei attained moksha. A person who sent Rama to the forest attained moksha. Dasharatha, on the other hand, went to Patal Lok. Now the question arises, how is it that the father of Bhagavan Sri Ram had to go to Patal Loka, whereas Kaikei, who caused so much pain to Bhagavan Sri Ram, attained moksha right away? To which the answer goes like this: Bharata is a Swayameva Dasa of Bhagavan Sri Ram. He's such a Dasa. Lakshmana is a Dasa who's always with Bhagavan. But Bhagavan has to order him, he will do without question. Bharata is such a Dasa that without Bhagavan Sri Ram saying anything, only he doesn't need to tell, he doesn't need to say. That's how a devotee he was of Bhagavan Sri Rama. Kaikei, even though she did it of her own ill intent and swarthi intent, which is selfish intent, she served the devotee of Bhagavan. A Bhagavata she served, by mistake she served, who was Bharata. And due to her service to a Bhagavata, she attained moksha. Dasharatha, on the other hand, could not differentiate between Samanya Dharma and Paramarthika Dharma. Samanya Dharma dictated that he follow what his words and give the 2 boons to Kaikei. And Paramarthika Dharma is to establish Bhagavan Sri Ram to be the king for 11,000 years. Not only that, while discussing this, he also insulted Dasharatha. He performed something called apachara. He insulted a devotee of the Lord. Even though he insulted the Lord by not performing the Paramarthika Dharma that he's supposed to have done, Bhagavana forgives if there is apachara done to him, which is called Bhagavad apachara. But if there is apachara done against his devotees, there is no forgiveness. One must go to Narakam unless the Bhagavata forgives. Therefore, Dasharatha had, because of his Bhagavad apachara against Dasharatha, had to go to Patal Loka and spend some time. Later on, Bhagavan Rama came and put him back in Swarga Loka for a while, and maybe by the end of this kalpa, he will attain moksha. So you understand this dharma sankata here. Sometimes there is a dharma sankata where there is samanya dharma, there is something like nitya karma that you must do every morning and afternoon and evening, the sandhya vandana. If you can't do in the afternoon, the Vedam says you must do nitya karma at certain time within the day. If you do it, you will attain punyam. No, I apologize. If you do it, apparently you will not attain anything, but there are some acharyas who will say that performing nitya karma will give you punyam. If you do not perform, it will give you papam. However, let's say I am at home, I need to perform nitya karma at 4:30. That's when the sandhya is happening, Brahma Murtam. Okay, but now there is a procession in the temple, and I have to go there and serve Bhagavana as well, which is of a higher pedestal in terms of dharma. My higher dharma is to perform as much as possible. I must perform both. If at all it is not possible for me to perform Sandhya Vandana right now because I'm being too late, I woke up late by mistake, I go perform my paramat, my dharma to serve the Bhagavana, after which I will come back and do my Sandhya Vandana. You see the concept of dharma here. Who decides what dharma is and what is dharma? What action attributes to dharma and what action attributes to adharma? Loka vyavahara, meaning the samanya dharma that we do, the worldly dharma that we do is not a true dharma. Let's call it a pseudo dharma. It is dharma which pushes you towards the paramarthika dharma, which is your actual dharma. So your dharma is to realize the paramartha, which is Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, and surrender towards that and attain Bhagavana and attain moksha. That is your param dharma. Let's take a moment. To understand this, how much time do I have left?
Go ahead, go ahead.
To understand this, the Vedam is a text. To understand this. Now, some accept the Vedam to be Nitya, some accept the Vedam to be Anitya. Sanatana Astika Darshana accepts Vedam to be Nityam. That's why they are called Astika. Nitya means eternal. Vedam was not written by anyone. It is an Apaurusheya Grantha. What does Vedam mean? Vedanam. Vedanam means to know. Janana. That's all Vedanam. Vedam means Veda. Vedas. There are three Veda, the main three Veda. And then Atharva Veda was also added, and they become four Vedas. Chaturveda, Chaturvedis, they've studied all four. But they're basically the same Vedam, which is to know, is divided into these. Vedam is the highest Shastra of Sanatana Dharma. Vedam is the foundation upon which everything is built in Sanatana Dharma. Why is an Apaurusheya Granth so important? Apaurusheya means where there is nobody has written it, as I keep saying again. You can go to the next slide, please. The Vedam is not written by anyone. So it does not have these four doshas. So if somebody writes something, there are four doshas that come. Doshas means there are four issues that can come with it. Bhrama, Vipralambha, Pramada, Ashakti. These are the four. What Bhrama means is, if you need to know something, let's assume there is an anatomy textbook, 500-page long anatomy textbook, human anatomy textbook, but for 80% of the text, it is only talking about rat anatomy or bovine anatomy. Let's assume bovine anatomy. For a book which is meant for human anatomy, for 90-95% of the text is only speaking of bovine anatomy, there is a problem with that, and that is called Bhrama. What is required, the knowledge within that text is something other than what is required. That may be, that could be a dosha within a Paurusheya Grantha. Veda is Apaurusheya. This error is not there within the Vedam. What must be there is there. Vipralambha. Vipralambha means if there is a mantra, let's say there is something that has been written by someone, but it is interpreted in a different way in the same text, or because Vedas, and when we say Itihas and Purana, they are also part of the Veda Shastra right now. So the meaning of the mantras has been is different from what is actually trying to say. Vedam does not have that. What it means is very clearly given. There is no different meaning to it. What meaning should be there is already there. What explanation should be there is already there within the Vedam. The third one is called pramada. When we are writing, you have a deadline. So let's say I'm writing a book. I have a deadline. 2 days later, I have to submit. 4 days later, I have to submit. Sometimes that causes haste. Let's say I'm writing an exam. I have a limited amount of time where I can write something, after which I cannot write because the time is over, or oppressive, where there is a limited space. There can be haste within writing. Somebody whose kartavya, which is somebody requires you to do something, but they do not do that. There is a certain something that you must do, which you do not do. That can be a dosha within the Veda, within a Shastra, not within a Shastra, sorry, within a text, a grantha, a text, which is not there within the Veda, because the Veda is apaurushaya. I'll just repeat this. Brahma is what should be there is not there. Vipralambha is a different meaning to what is actually there. Pramada is written quickly and in haste. So what could have been there is not there, and what should not have been there is there. And ashakta is how much of what should be there is there. If I want to talk about Atman, there is enough. You cannot go to the Vedam and say, oh, Atman, I can't understand Atman from the Vedam. Not enough is written about it. No, there is enough written about Atma in the Vedam. That dosha is not there. So Apaurushaya Grantha is devoid of these four doshas. Therefore, the Vedam is a primary text upon which all other texts can be, all other texts rest. It is a primary rudimentary base. Now, the Veda has basically two parts, the Karma Kanda and the Brahma Kanda. Brahma Kanda is talking about Brahma, which is Bhagavana, Ishvara, and what is Atma, and so on. Karma Kanda is talking about how to attain, the work that you must do to attain it. Okay, both of which are absolutely essential and important, and that is clearly mentioned by Veda Bhagavan himself in the 40th chapter of Shukla Yajurveda, Madhyandina Shakha. You may also know it as Ishavasyopanishad. So if you are going through the Vedam only, if you're looking at the Vedic text, then it is in the 14th mantra of the 40th chapter, Adhyaya. Otherwise, if you're looking at the text, I don't know how the Ishavasya Upanishad has been framed. You may go back and look at it. I think I have actually taken some reference from Sri Aurobindo's, and I'll try and tell you some things about that in a moment. So what it says here is, do I have that slide? Yeah, let's stick to this slide only. Vidyam cha yastadvedo bhayagung saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyaya amrita mashnute. So what does this mean? Vidya and avidya both are required for amrita mashnute, which is moksha. So what is vidya? Bhagavan's swarup is vidya. Avidya is karma kanda. Avidya here refers to karma kanda, which is one part of the Vedam, and vidya here refers to Bhagavan. So understanding and performing both your duties, the karma kanda and the brahma kanda, are important for you to attain moksha, is said by the Vedam in the 40th chapter. Therefore, both karma kanda, which is varnashrama dharma, and so the death ceremony, you have all the ceremonies that happen, as long as it is towards Bhagavana. So what the Srimad Bhagavatam says in the second skandha is Narayana Paraveda, Deva Narayanangaja, Narayana Paraloka, Narayana Paramakha, Narayana Paro Yogo, Narayana Parantapa, Narayana Paramgyanam, Narayana Paragati. Everything is towards the attribute of Bhagavan only, of Bhagavan Narayana only. Even if you are doing a havan, even if you are doing some karma kanda, everything is directed towards Bhagavan only. Bhagavan only reaps the fruit and he distributes it. Okay. So here the translation of this is basically saying, now let me tell you another small, it's not a story per se, but an example. if you want to, let's say the motive is to write a book. You need basically two things: the instruments to write a book, which is the knowledge of the words, a pen and a book and paper. And then you read the knowledge to write a book. Let's call the instruments to write a book as Karma Kanda and the knowledge to write a book as Brahma Kanda. Can you write a book just with one or the other? You can shake your head in either way. So I just, okay. Anyway, so you cannot write a book with just one or the other. You require both. You require the paper, just with the paper but no knowledge, and no pen, you cannot write. Just with the knowledge but without paper, you cannot write. So to write a book, if the motive is to write a book, that is moksha, you require both karma kanda and brahma kanda. So there are two mimamsakas nowadays, according to our acharya, Ramanujacharya, Rahu mimamsaka and Kabandhaka mimamsaka. So Rahu means head, they only accept Brahma Kanda, they don't accept Karma Kanda at all. They completely forego. Kabandhaka mimamsaka, they only accept Karma Kanda. They don't really care about Brahma Kanda, where they go, who am I? They only do ritualistic practices. Both of these will not attain moksha. Those who perform both Karma Kanda and Brahma Kanda will. Now, I saw something, maybe it could be a spelling error or typo, but I was just looking through Sri Aurobindo's translation of Ishavasya Upanishad, and in the second line of the mantra, Vidya ya mruta mashnute. That is how it has been written, the mantra. However, in the Shukla Yajurvedam, it has been written Vidya ya amrita mashnute. Amrita here. So the translation slightly changes. So sometimes what I've heard from different acharyas is sometimes to fit some level of understanding of a system of thought, there may be some changes within the shastra, whereas sometimes you have an akara, extra akara, and so on and so forth. So it's very difficult to find a text without any of these changes. Difficult to find Vedic texts like that. Now, I don't know which one is true or not, but however, here the Khandakara should have been there. I should have actually put it as a slide. I'm sorry I didn't do this, but it is not there. So that means Karma Kanda and Brahma Kanda are both required for you to attain moksha. Now, attaining moksha is the paramartha, meaning the absolute bliss. You want to be blissful, you want to remain happy, you want to remain content. There can be no complete contentment as long as there is association with this body. Atma must dissociate with karma, so there is dissociation with samsara. Therefore, it can attain moksha. And in the modern lifestyle, through the Vedic Dharma, attainment through the Vedic Dharma, practicing the Paramarthika Dharma to attain moksha, coming in line will help you attain a sense of peace and bliss in this modern lifestyle. And with that, I'll try to end my monologue. Jai Sriman Narayana, Srimate Ramanujaya Namaha. We could go ahead with the questions now.
That is very, very nice. Now we want to have participants raising any questions. Please unmute yourself and then come along. Please note that I cannot see your name very easily. It's a bit complicated. So do unmute yourself and ask the question. Any questions?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Dr. Nas.
If nobody's asking the question, let me ask this question. My own understanding is life is a result of interaction between nature and nurture. So nature is what you are endowed with, basically your DNA. And nurture is the environment, which includes everything: your physical environment, your upbringing, your education, your parents, your schooling, college, everything. Now, my own understanding is, I think mankind is to some extent genetically programmed to be unhappy. And we have to make sort of big strides to attain that happiness. Now, so it's a question of methodology. How do we attain that? Some of us are to some extent endowed with the methodology. Some, it has to be fostered. Others, it has to come through your schooling, your education. And we live in the Western world. We enjoy the fruits of the Western world, this capitalistic society. There is very little time left for spiritual and philosophical upliftment. Our ancient Vedic system was completely the other way around. There weren't that much of material around at that time to aspire for. So desires were very, very limited in terms of what you can earn or what you can possess. And if we are to follow these Vedic principles, I think we have to take an almost a 180-degree turnaround. And I wonder if you could sort of comment on that.
As I understand, your more, not much of a question, but what you're trying to say is, if we have to, you agree with the fact that it requires a turnaround, but the fact that it requires a turnaround, what do we do about it? Is that correct?
Yeah. How do we achieve that?
As they say, where there is a will, there is a way. You must, if you want Adhyatmic Jnanam, then there requires that 180-degree turnaround. So if something is required, you must do it. That's that. Now, how difficult is it for how many people to do? Because you have a lot of responsibilities within the societal framework that you're living in at the moment as well. Yeah. So that's why our Varna, ashrama system was so prominent. So we perform our responsibilities to a certain degree. The point of retirement, you retire into the forest, and then you look towards Adhyatmic Jnana. And you are absolutely right. There requires a 180-degree turnaround. And it is unfortunate that we have come to a society, not come to, but we have come to become a society which the conceptual understanding of Param Jnanam has become Paramartha, which is of financial wealth or capitalistic, as you may have said. So if the yearning is for moksha, then it will lead you that way. It will lead you to turn around 180 degrees, or maybe completely around in a different dimension altogether. If that is the yearning, that is how you will go about it. If that yearning is not strong enough, as strong as the yearning is, the degree of turn would be.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
I hope that is answer. Does that suffice?
Well, yes and no. I mean, you have to have the individual yearning for it. But I think we are now going through a time when the COVID and this environmental degradation is sort of so heavy on us that the circumstances will force us to live simpler lives, to reduce our carbon footprints, and to sort of live with a less amount of physical or material comforts than we are so used to. So whether we like it or not, the knock is on the door, and we'll have to change our ways.
Yes, the priority. It's as long as you know what your priorities are, you will be directed towards that, I guess. Yeah.
Srinivas ji, I want to tell you something about Dr. Das. He's from a Gurukul system of education, by the way. The person who was asking you the question. He's it's amazing that he's possibly questioning with a view to give an answer. Actually, I'm sure he will be able to give us a better answer.
Can I ask
right, Archana ji, please go ahead.
Very interesting talk. Just want to clarify the dharma and the actions and atma dissociating with our dharma. The whole thing can be just defined in terms of selfless action. When it is not egoistic action, when we are dissociating, if the action is selfless, the atma will be dissociated from ego, right? So because it's not desire prompted action, it's desireless, thoughtless action. It's that something that should be done is going to be done. So that way we achieve all three things, which is dissociation of atma from ego in selfless action. Karma kand, we're doing an action, And thirdly, the Brahmakand, that we are doing such an action which leads us in towards integration, towards Brahman, towards peacefulness. So, so this, if the question answer to everybody's question is selfless action. That's what I understand is a selfless action. At the moment, we are all doing prompted actions, egoistic actions. I want something, so something has to be done. But if that we can change to what should be done is what I'm going to do, not that I want it. I am just an instrument to do this function, but because it is something that must be done for the integration of society, for greater togetherness, for greater peacefulness, that action then is Karmakand achievement, Brahmakand achievement, and dissociation of Atma achievement. It functions, it achieves everything. So the only thing we need to do is drop down from egoistic, self-desired prompted actions to selfless actions, which promotes Atma Gyan, Atma Shanti. That's what I want to say. I'm not asking question. I think I'm just
think that's it has been well contextualized.
Is the conclusion of all the queries, what we do, how we do, what should we do. It takes all lifetime. It does not take lifetime at all. It takes only a minute to decide how we are going to act in this life, in this society. We must not do, because any action that is prompted by self-desire action, it will have some sort of a disadvantage to the next person. If it is for self gain, there's got to be a loss for somebody else. So it should not be a self gain type action. Any action that we do, the motivation of that should be, it needs to be done, it should be done, so this body is going to do it. I want no results from it, I want nothing. I just want to do this action to the best of my ability, and I don't care what happens afterwards, because it should be done, so I'm doing it, full stop. So it is just a selfless action, desireless action is what we need to do. That's all we need to change, is the attitude of our motivation to any action that we do.
That's
I think that's very, very important. Yes, yes. Go ahead, Srinivas ji. Respond to it. I've got some interesting comments on that. Please.
That's right. The thing is that as individuals, as each individual have their own own ability to think, understand, and fathom different situations. Therefore, the drawback upon which you are trying to make this statement, which is absolutely true, I completely agree, is that the moment there is nishkama karma, where there is no attachment to desire, and you become a karma yogi, that is the first step towards vairagya, because dharma leads to vairagya, then leads to moksha.
Yeah.
So dharma is performing your duties correctly. Now, what is right and wrong upon your duties, you can understand it through study or however you want to, or sometimes you are a vairagya by itself, and then you understand it. However, there are a good number of people who are not in this position of mindset, who don't care about selfless nishkama karma. They want material gain. However, there is some level of, I want to attain moksha also. So how do you consolidate with these people, with different people? Because we cannot expect everybody to be the same. And therefore, this Varana Ashrama is so important.
They have to do the vairagya, the tyag, the sannyas of desires. They have to do all those three things. They have to keep doing work at it. Unless you become desireless, unless you become, the moksha cannot be achieved.
I've got a very interesting take on that. In the sense is to understand again Vedantic concept as Srinivas ji would say, is that we all attach we have to understand body, mind, and intellect as three different layers of our understanding. The more we open up your mind, the more you realize that there is a concept of me. Who am I? A particular position in society, community, or whatever it is, and we want to show a certain facade or a face which is different from what actually we are internally. When you start looking internally, you are slightly different from what you're exposing yourself with. And the third thing beyond that, when you start looking yourself deeper inside, then you start realizing there's a lot of muck around in my brain and there's a lot of muck around in my mind. I cannot get around it. And the reality is the person who is observing it is actually quite different. He is understanding that consciousness, which is understanding how much of muck there is. And you can also know what facade you want to show. and what type of ego you want to. The concept of ego is quite different in terms of what we see in the normal psychological context and in normal English language. Is quite different from the ego that we understand in the Vedantic concept. The Vedantic concept of ego is a bit different. It's a concept of consciousness as it looks at you. On the other hand, there's a higher level of ego, which is the what you call, which is attainable only when you completely see yourself. And the way I look at it is like that if you really want to see yourself, your mind should be still like that of a lake with clean water and no ripples. If there are any waves in it, you cannot see yourself. If the clean water is a little dirty, you still cannot see the bottom of the lake. So unless your mind is completely still, takes away all the muck, all the understanding, all the egos, all perception, everything is taken away, then only you can see yourself. And that stillness of mind is something that can only be attained through the right understanding of the Vedanta and also how we can practice it. So the concept of is we are all the time completely, we all say we want to be free. Let me put it very clearly. We have got our five senses and we're all the time trying to please it. I enjoy my food, so I'm pleasing my taste buds. And everybody's trying to do, somebody wants to see glamorous, what you call clothes and designs and put them on. Well, they're exciting another type of physical attainment. The reality is that unless you keep on getting bound and stuck to this physical entertaining your physical entities, you are bound to be stuck with some problem or the other. You will be, unless you sort of get out of that particular thing and say, no, I don't want to be controlled by these senses. Then you start sort of saying, okay, I'm slightly different from that. Then you start realizing inner self. I hope I've not gone into your territory, Srinivasji, but
No,
it
no,
is
not at all.
something that you have to make it much clearer. I hope I have not mucked up the answer.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, so
The only
that's
thing I would like to add there is, apart from the ripples and the water cleanliness is also important.
That's
That
right.
means, so that means that is the karma. So that karma also must be clean.
That's
yes.
right. Oh, that is very nice context. That's important.
Basically, we have to first develop the vairagya to our sense pleasures, isn't it? The world pleasures. We have to develop the vairagya for that they are not important. I want to achieve moksha, and this is not really useful to me, and I don't need it. I don't want it. So that is a vairagya for world pleasures. And then we have to then drop that selfish motivation of personal of us of our actions. I want something, so we have to drop our ego. That is dropping the ego and hope that I want results. I want such a thing. I want more money, so I want to do this work. No, I will do my duty, what I'm scheduled to do. What is my duty in this life as a doctor or as anybody? I'll do it to best of my ability, and results will come. I will earn some money for my living, and I will do everything. But my motivation is that I must do my job well. To the best of my ability, I must treat my patients well. And the results will come accordingly, but I'm not looking for the results. How much money did I earn? Shall I do another x-ray just to earn some extra money? No. I must do the rightful duty in the right way, maximum of my ability. Then results will come. Fine, I will earn enough to eat. That's not a problem. And that's it. So that way my mind remains clean. It does not remain anxious of the results. So we have to drop ego and hope. Ego means I am doing it. And because the only way we can have the attitude of I am not doing it, I don't want results, I just want to do my duty, is when we dissociate ourselves with it, that I'm doing it, me the great, I'm doing it. No, I am just this instrument. It could be anybody who could be doing it. I'm just an instrument to do this task.
Right.
And results don't belong to me. I'm just doing the task, and that's the end of the story. So
Pranabda, you wanted to ask some questions?
Uncle, I hope I've not interrupted Archanaji because she was in her flow. But so my apology to her.
No,
I thought it was this, kind of truth to yourself, true to your life, and truth is so important. Well, part of few other factors to achieve or reach to moksha, I think. Yeah, probably I'm having difficulty to get the right kind of word. But is it true to myself this morning? Truth, yes. You see, this last hour, that's for sure, has taken me away from the little personal suffering I was going through, and it's created by myself because I chose to move house from Blackburn to Hull. And that has been quite stressful, unhappiness, thinking, why did I do this? Now, I'm talking from a little, I'm going, first of all, society or the world, like, the government is made by the people. So I'm individual makes, part of the world. So I'm talking from myself. Now, so this has taken me away. That was true for me the last 2 months. I mean, for the last hour, I've been in a true different territory. My mind was totally taken away from all these. I'll be back again, probably within the next 5 minutes as soon as the program is over. Now, what I was thinking, that, is there any role of what we have heard, so many practice makes perfect. So I just wondered what would be the views of Srinivas ji. But then I have a family, I have my wife, and I have reached a particular age. I've got on. So how do I get away from that? Even if I wanted to achieve moksha in my way. Yes, I have worked in NHS for 38 years. And I told my son, when he became a doctor, I'm not asking a question, but maybe question was that is there any role of practice making it perfect towards achieving moksha? But you see, when he qualified as doctor, I said, the patient in front of you is your aim, is your goal, and his family, patient's family, patient. But now I don't have that. So I have played my role in NHS for 38, 39 years. I've done my bit. And I used to say, when they used to ask me, what is my religion? I used to say, my job is my religion. So is there any, and how do you achieve? How, as a practicing family man, practice something to reach moksha? Is there anything what the Upanishad said, or but that means I have to become a sannyas? Or without being a sannyas, is there any way out for me to get that? Have I been able to explain? I mean, there are a lot of things I've been going through my mind.
Should I go ahead?
Go ahead.
Please.
Yes, go ahead.
I hope I have not,
No, I think it's a typical Karma Yogi's answer.
Absolutely. Moksha does not mandate sannyasa. Anyway,
Okay.
in the Kali Yuga, sannyasa is not agreed upon by the Vedam. Sannyasa is not permitted also in Kali Yuga. There is a shastra which allows some people to accept sannyasa ashrama. Otherwise, grihastha ashrama, which is actually the most difficult ashrama, must be practiced. So if you are a grihasti, which you already are, you must perform your duties accordingly. If you are asking me personally, what should I do? If that is the question, then my answer would be, you must perform Sharanagati. Once you perform Sharanagati, your Acharya will guide you. And that's the end. Once your Acharya guides you, your Acharya will tell you, this is what you should do, this is what you can do. And you can surrender completely upon the lotus-like feet of your Acharya and perform Sharanagati. That is what I would tell you. If it is a question for a general public, what can we do? Yes, you can all perform Sharanagati, and with the grace of your acharyas, attain moksha.
The way I would put it is very simple, possibly, is that do whatever you are doing, and you're doing with the best of yourself, and there's nothing to be attached in terms of your response. If it happens, fine. If it doesn't happen, not to be upset with it. That's the way I would. Is that reasonable? We have to do our action, and that's about it.
But what action is correct, what action is incorrect, that is the unfortunate situation that we are.
Very difficult, yes.
Some things that we think is correct action may turn out to be an action which should not have been done at all in the first place, or the other way around. Yeah. So the guidance factor in our Sanatana Dharma is always Guru Parampara. The acharyas will direct the Sishya. Surrendering on the lotus feet of Acharya, the Guru Parampara, is important. Without an Acharya, moksha is not possible. So if you look at the Ramayanam, Sabari, right, the lady who So in Sabari's ashrama, when Bhagwan Sri Ram went, she was waiting for Bhagwan Sri Ram because her Acharya told her, Rama will come to your house, you wait for him. After that, you will attain moksha, is what he said. She waited for Rama. When Bhagwan Sri Ram came, you know all the stories and all. After that, Bhagwan Sri Ram said, now you can attain moksha. And to which Sabari said, no, I don't want moksha from you. I have my Acharya. I am going to go to my Acharya. My Acharya will give me moksha. On the other hand, when Jatayu was on the ground and Rama took him on his lap and started weeping, Jatayu did not have any Acharya. So Rama took Jatayu as his Sishya, became Jatayu's Acharya and granted him moksha there. So Acharya was important even there. So association of Acharya is important to attain moksha.
So
that's
important.
what Asha.
Kamalji,
So that's
please go
why
ahead.
I said,
Sorry, go ahead.
That's why I said, Sharanagati, surrender completely. When you surrender even that free will that you have, so that even if you are not a complete karma yogi, where you say, I am the doer of our action, because to be a complete karma yogi, very difficult. You may be in parts and it may help you, satiate you in some way. To be a complete karma yogi is difficult. Jnana yogi is even more difficult. Sharanagati, Prapatti yoga is easy. Complete surrender and just follow what Acharya says as much as we can. Even if we can't, because of our association with the Acharya, moksha is imminent in this lifetime according to our Shastra.
Right.
So feel happy with whatever you get. Yes. Thank you. Given by God. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, Kamalji,
thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah. Thank you, Pranamda.
Can I just also ask another question?
Just one second. I'm just waiting for Kamalji to put his question.
Sorry.
Kamalji, please go ahead.
Yes, I have been waiting for my turn.
Yes, so go ahead.
You go ahead.
Namaste, Devadarshanji. My question also relates to moksha, but maybe from a slightly different slant. If I understand correctly, to attain moksha, you got to have your karmic accounts balance zero. Now, when we perform any action, any karma, it has got to have some impact on our karmic account, no matter how selfless the karma is. We talked about selfless action and so on. So if the karma, no matter how selfless, still leaves an impression, impact on karmic account, how on earth am I ever going to have my karmic account zero, balance zero, so that I attain moksha? So could you please kindly shed some light on this dilemma?
So if you take a hospital, for instance, as yesterday Anupalji was giving me an example, if a doctor works overtime, the hospital may be obliged to pay a certain sum of money as a reparation of sort, so that is the gentleman gone?
No, I'm sure
he's there.
Oh, he's here. Sorry, just suddenly changed. Yeah. So that means the responsibility of a person, an individual working overtime, is attributed to the head of the hospital in that sense. So the money which is going out of the bank is also of the hospitals. That means the karma which is being gained is by the hospital, not by the individual. If you attribute all your action to Bhagavan, all action that you do will be attributed to Bhagavan, not to you as an individual. Because as you surrender, you say, I am not myself, I am yours. So everything that I do must be under your purview. If a boss asks his employee to do something, and the employee makes a mistake, the boss is responsible for his employee, and he has to answer to his superiors, not the employee who has just done the wrong thing or wrong deed. It is upon the boss's duty, that karma, right? Just exactly like that, Bhagavana, once you surrender to Bhagavana, all action is attributed to him. Therefore, all the actions that you have in the past he will dissociate it from your Atma. He will not destroy it. You cannot destroy karma. He will just redistribute it, because karma is also nitya. He will just dissociate from the Atma. What you have as prarabdha here, you will have to live it out. Anything that you are going to do henceforth will be attributed to him. Therefore, when death happens, when the Atma leaves the body, there is no karma left with that jiva, and therefore it will attain moksha.
But that would be a very, very interesting topic. It's about, the pranam that we do. Very many times when you go to a very, 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 very highly well acclaimed person and you try to do pranam, they say, no, don't do me a pranam. Because the instant you do pranam, he is actually obliged to take what you call responsibility for you and your actions. And therefore, when you do a pranam to somebody elderly, or we accept a pranam from somebody, it is our also job to accept the responsibility for whatever he does. Therefore, that pranam concept is also not as simple as many people think. That's why many of the senior gurus, you try to touch their feet, they say, no, don't touch it. Because he then has to take the responsibility for your action and decisions as well. And therefore, there's the same concept of Acharya and Shishya Parampara. That's why, unless the Acharya takes the responsibility, and there's a clear relationship between Shishya and Acharya, that particular relationship is not usually accepted. There's a lot of responsibility behind pranam. Am I correct?
Yes. I hadn't heard of this pranam thing yet, but what you said thereafter was right. Guru Parampara is such that first there is Nara. Nara got Diksha from Narayana, and Nara had his Sishyas. So his Sishyas, that is your Guru. So your Guru is under the purview of his Acharya, who's under the purview of his Acharya until it reaches Narayana, who's under the purview of Bhagavan. That's why Guru association is important, because Guru takes responsibility of you, whose responsibility is taken by his Acharya, and henceforth by some Bhagavan Narayana. So when you associate with the Guru, you associate with Bhagavan Sriman Narayana, and therefore moksha is imminent. That is the idea. Of course, there are some things which come with it, maybe another time. Bhogyatva and Paratantriyatva, there is a concept, which basically means that there is a difference between bhakti and sharanagati. Both of these are known as upayas according to Srimad Bhagavatam for moksha. Bhakti and sharanagati. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th skandha, okay, 11th canto. It talks about the upaya for moksha. And both bhakti and sharanagati. In bhakti, there is karma, as in I do for you. That is called bhoktritva and seshatva. I am your servant. I will do for you. Because all my actions are attributed to you, I will attain moksha when I pass on. But even while passing on, I will contemplate only on you. So you can come and take me.
Anyway,
Sharanagati is bhogyatva and paratantriyatva, meaning I am a nobody. I am surrendered to you. I am not swatantra. I am not an independent entity. I am a dependent entity on you, which is Bhagavan. Because you are a dependent entity, when you are a baby, the father, the mother will take you around, right? If there's something, some mistake the baby makes, it's a mistake. The father will forgive, or they will take the responsibility. A baby drops, $500,000 vase, then the father will have to pay for it. Just like that, we are like those babies in the eyes of Bhagavana, and we must, when we surrender, we are like those babies. So when we attain moksha, we are paratantra, we are not swatantra, we are dependent entities, and therefore that attributes to moksha. I hope that is clear, Kamalji.
One question I need to ask, Badly.
I still have some doubt on the answer to moksha. Obviously, when we are born, we have got sanchit karma. We bring sanchit karma with ourselves, which needs to be resolved in this lifetime. So my question is, if the sanchit karma is small in amount, if you like, which we have lived through, balanced it out, and then from then on, any karma devoted to the Almighty, then my karmic account remains zero, and then I might attain moksha. On the other hand, if the sanchit karma is so much that I have not finished all of it in this lifetime, I don't have any chance then to achieve moksha in this lifetime. I have to be born again to finish the sanchit karma, whatever was left after finishing in this lifetime, into the next lifetime. And then from then on, I can sort of reset the button. Is my understanding correct?
Almost. There is sanchita karma there. You take some part of the sanchita karma and you come into this kalpa. And that is called prarabdha karma. So you are born not with sanchita. From sanchita, you are born with something called prarabdha karma. Okay. So prarabdha also of two types, avyupakata and anavyupakata prarabdha karma. It's not necessary what these are. If you are, the karma is such, the sharira is karma janyam. With karma, this body is born. Right? So you use some karma from your sanchita and you are born, that karma becomes prarabdha for you. Okay? When sharanagati happens, all your sanchita karma gets dissociated from your jiva. That's what I'm trying to say. From the jiva, from that moment on. That moment when you surrender to your acharya, the sanchita karma gets dissociated. Now you have only prarabdha. Anavyupakata and avyupakata. That which is still remaining, like if there is a bhado, what is it? A vessel with rice in it, and you have served some in your plate. That one part is what you're using for this life. There is some left which you may be born again and again until that rice gets over. That rice vessel is also taken. Now you just have the plate of rice. You will not be allowed to add anymore because all the attribute of your karma is taken by Bhagavana. Now you're just trying to finish off the rice that you have. Once you finish that off, there is no reason for the Jivatma to remain within the body and it will attain moksha. Is that clear?
That is very good. Thank you very, very much.
Can I ask one last question?
Sorry. Go ahead.
Can I just ask? Yeah? Can I ask?
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Okay, right. Moksha, I'm still that moksha aspect I'm a little bit unclear about. Is if you can expand on that, please, Acharya. By discussion, it appears as if Guru is going to give us moksha. Means like something is given to us, some sort of diksha is given to us, or some sort of gyan is given to us, or some sort of is given to us. That's what is seeming like. Is that how it is, or is it that we just earn moksha gradually because of removal of our ego and all those, and surrender to all our actions and surrender to God or to Acharya or somebody? So that means surrendering action is basically completely annihilating your ego, I suppose. That's what I'm understanding from that. There's different people, want to understand it in a different way. Bhakti people want to understand by bhakti, like, but at the end of the day, what you're doing is just getting rid of your ego. So is moksha gradually attained by your own efforts, slowly reaching to the point of complete and 100% peacefulness? Is that what I'm to understand, or is something that is given to you as a like a diksha or like a gift from your guru? What is the correct understanding?
That's a very, very good question. Let's assume that it is through your effort. Let's assume. If we assume that it is through your effort, moksha is paramartha. It is the highest of achievement. That means there is no wealth like moksha.
Yeah.
The moment we think that our efforts will lead to moksha already creates ahamkara within us. Does that make sense? If we say that my efforts will lead me to moksha, already there is ahamkara.
Correct. But not that way.
Therefore, my efforts will never lead me to moksha.
Mm-hmm.
It must be because if only and only if Bhagavana wishes will you be on the path to moksha. I don't have enough punyam to attain moksha. I may have enough punyam to go to Swarga Loka, Jana Loka, Tapa Loka, even Satya Loka. I may somehow garner enough karma, but I don't have enough karma, punyam, to attain moksha. There's just not enough. Therefore, it is not something that the Acharya gives you. What the Acharya does is, he associates your Atma in the path of moksha, associates your Atma with Bhagavana. When you surrender to Bhagavana, now there is an association between you and that Bhagavana. When you go to a hostel, you take your child to a hostel, your child needs to remain in the hostel, you have to come back home. Now somebody has to take responsibility of the child. what do? The warden of the house or the whoever is the head of that hostel will sign papers saying, now I take responsibility of this child, you may go. Now the responsibility of educating that child rests with the warden of that hostel, not with the parent anymore. Does that make sense? Now let's assume complete education is moksha. The warden has brought you through different things, through creating an establishment, through your warden who takes care of you when you are young, you attain that knowledge, which is the high school, whatever, through that, and you attain moksha. So Acharya is not somebody who gives you a grants, you associates with Bhagavan.
Yeah.
Facilitate.
He facilitates it. He facilitates.
Absolutely. But in the end, only and only Bhagavan can provide moksha. Because it is, does that make it is association to him that is moksha.
So that means self with effort towards in this direction. Plus, Acharya is Guru is what you absolutely need. Guru needs.
Even the fact that you want to find a Guru or you want to work towards that is because of Sankalpam of Bhagavana only. It's called Nirhetu Kripa.
Yeah.
Without the Kripa, Nirhetu, there is no Hetu for the Kripa. There is no reason. He uses some punyam, something that you may have done. You may have picked up a pencil for a kid. He will use that as a nimitta and he will provide kripa upon you. What means nirhetu kripa. Without any reason, he gives you a kripa. He just nudges you a little bit so that you can come and listen to discussion like this. And you constantly come and you constantly want to be associated with devotees. Satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatvam, nirmohatve nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktihi. With satsangam only, vairagya, the feeling will come. That is because of Bhagavana, because of his kripa only. And attainment of moksha is only through him, not with our, we don't have enough within us to create enough punyam to attain moksha.
There needs to be some Guru effort to lead, to connect you, and then make your effort and then progress.
Yes, you may assume that it is your effort. That is called bhakti.
No, I mean, go
yes,
in that direction.
I agree. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Yes. Not in an egoistic sense, but
absolutely.
Effort.
Absolutely.
Right. I think we'll call it the end of a meeting today. Srinivas ji, thank you very, 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 very much for a wonderful talk. And we have learned so much. Well, we have not learned so much. We have learned how much we don't know. And there is so much to be learned, not only about ourselves and the world, but it's all the time, as usual, the concept of learning. That is what Jadu Krishnamurti says. There's always no end to learning till the very end of our lives. And we have to learn not only about the world, but more than anything else about our own selves. And I think that's what you have done and served very well. And I'm so glad that you have, I think, as everybody who is over here much elder to you in terms of age, we are so glad to see that you've come through such kind of education where you have acquired this much of knowledge and information about things, which is quite different from what we term in terms of education, in terms of earning our money. It's very different because your way of looking at the world is going to be very different in future, and that's going to give you a sense of happiness. Thank you very much from all of us, and we'll see you all over again. And any other issues, do get, mind you, he's a yoga teacher. He's teaching Ashtanga yoga and Hatha yoga, and he's a teacher for the yoga teachers here in UK. So he's one of the most expensive guys in terms of getting yoga this thing. And he's also very good in Vedanta, and that because he's teaching Vedanta to the yoga teachers, that is where the yoga teaching gets very, very different. And also he has got his website. He's got a lot of important information over there. He's also media creator, and we are so glad to see that you've achieved so much in 23 years of age because the background of schooling that you have had. And I think he also regrets that he's not been through a Gurukul system, but it is still a very, very much akin to what it's meant to be. Thank you very, very much, everybody. We have made the recording. I will send the recording to by email, and Srinivas ji also has his own website. He'll also be able to upload it in his website as a YouTube presentation. So I will try to upload it in our YouTube presentation as well. So it will be good in what way or the other. And he knows how to edit and a whole lot of stuff. So he might be able to do all that. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, everybody. And Panida was not here. I think he must have had to leave. But he did join in and he went somewhere before time.
Dhanyavad.
Narayana. Narayana. Shriman Narayana.
Namaste ji. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Narayana.